Well, it's just a nice, easy one to start with. Was there a lot of music in the household when you were growing up?
Yes, there was. My pop, Skinner, he fiddled. He played the violin, but he played it down. He didn't have it up under his chin. He had it sort of down in the crook of his arm, and they played a lot of Celtic music. And my nana played squeeze box, accordion. My Uncle Alan played sax. My Uncle Horry played piano and banjo. And Uncle Stan played the spoons and banjo. They all played. And so some days, they'd all get together and they'd all play and we'd all sing. And from the time Mum said I was singing all the words to the songs at 2 and 3. I knew everything. So it was great. It was really lovely.
Now, you were working as a hairdresser, I believe, in your younger days. Was there a breaking point where you had to make that career decision to stick with hairdressing or give it away for music?
Well, I've been learning the piano from 9 and singing from 12, as in learning how to sing, I suppose. Probably I was a soprano, a lyric soprano at that time. But I started singing around at the dances, and when I left school to do hairdressing, I think I had about 8 months to go to finish. But I was working for a woman who wouldn't give me time off, and we did so much overtime. It was when late nights, Friday nights came in and all that, and we never got paid for anything like that. And so I was singing at the dances as well as working hairdressing through the day. So I would sing at Preston Circle on a Thursday night, and Friday night would either be Sunshine or Glen Iris Rock or something. Saturday night was Canterbury Ballroom or Preston Town Hall, and Sunday was Preston Circle. So I was earning more money singing than I was as an apprentice hairdresser anyway. But I did love hairdressing. And it's funny, I met the Seekers much later. I was their support when they first made it overseas. I was 19, but earlier I used to do Mrs. Woodley's hair. So it's funny how all the little circles come around. And then when I had my children, Bo was in the same form, went to school with Ethel's daughter. So it's all funny, all the little circles. But I was picked to do the Go Show, and I went home to my dad because he was all big on apprenticeships in those days. He was a brickie, but he said to me, you do whatever you think is right. And because Mrs. Donovan wouldn't give me time off once a fortnight on a Tuesday afternoon to go and tape the Go Show, I just left. I just said, that's it, I'm not staying with you. She was very unfair. So that was it. So I was singing 4 nights a week, taping the Go Show once a fortnight, and having much more fun and earning a lot more money.
Now, I had the pleasure a few months ago of speaking to one of your idols, Connie Francis. And, yeah, I did. And she told me that she was rejected for about 100 auditions before she got her first break. So you've got one up on her. I believe your first audition was with the Thunderbirds and you were in straight away. Yes,
I was. We used to go to the dances on a Saturday night, my girlfriends and myself, and my girlfriend said, you know how they are. My girlfriend sings. Can she sing a song with the band? They always say no. And so anyway, they said Saturday they were auditioning, so I just went along and auditioned, and I was 15 and a half, and I got the job. 15 and a half. I look back now and I think, my God, they're so young. But anyway, that was the beginning.
Have you ever pondered how your life may have panned out had you not got that audition?
No. Never. Never, because you don't think about that. You just, one thing led on to another. The Thunderbirds, I worked with them for about 18 months, and then John Gray, who ran the dances down here for Ivan Damon, he was the big dance promoter, and one of them. And then they moved me to Thursday nights. I sang with the Raiders for a while. Barry Roy was with the Raiders, and Johnny Lyle was he was a singer, a great band. And then they had another band starting out with a young singer who was 14, which was Normie Rowe. And so Norm and I became the male and female singers for this other band, and they eventually were called the Playboys because they were working at Preston Town Hall, and Kevin McClellan, who used to run the town hall, his wife came backstage and says, "Come on, you pack of Playboys, get on stage." And that's how they got their name. And so I worked with them for a long time. I continued over the years doing the go shows and doing heaps of one thing sort of rolled into another. Go shows and bandstands, and there was a show called on the Saturday morning called Rock and Roll Circus. There was those date shows which I was on. They used to put us on absolutely everything. In Melbourne Tonight, I did a lot of those with Graham Kennedy. And on my own, and Don, what's his name? Don, Graham Kennedy, Don Lane.
Don Lane, yeah.
And later on Bert and all the rest of it. So things just kind of rolled on. And then we started recording and we started touring. And then Norm took off with so many, and Peter Doyle, and then Tony Worsley. We were all recorded on the Sunshine label, which was a part of Festival Records. And then we were just working and touring, and it was just one thing after the other. I stopped touring here when I joined up with the Cookies in 1967, October of 1967, and then we went overseas, and then we worked with Cliff Richard, and then we came home. I toured with Tom Jones, and we toured with the Monkees, and I don't know, one thing just sort of led on to another.
Yeah. So singing on stage from the age of 15, did you take to the stage like a duck to water? Did you have a stage confidence right from the start?
I was, always. I can remember being a bit nervous and having to work with the boys in the band too. They were used to working, although the Thunderbirds were used to working with girl singers. But, you had to sort of learn the ropes, and you had to learn to stick up for yourself and not take any rubbish, BS, as they say. And when you're young, it comes. Luckily for me, nothing deters me much. I just handle things pretty quickly, and I've had to do that over the years. That when things happen to me on stage, not so much now, it's lovely now because we're all old, and they treat you with respect. In the beginning, the girls hated me because I was on stage with the boys, and especially Normie Rowe, and then I was Normie's girlfriend, and then I got engaged to him, and so they really, some of them gave me a hard time, not all of them, of course. And so, I had to battle with a lot of that stuff, but I have a fairly warped sense of humour. And if I go out and they do stuff like throw things at me, I've thrown it back. And I just say, well, I'm up here, you're not. And you're not going to see who you want to see until I'm finished.
That's the way.
So I had to have a pretty hard shell, I guess.
Yeah. So any standout memories of the Go Show time, and how much of your week time-wise was taken up by that?
Well, we taped the Go Show on a Tuesday afternoon, and the audience came in at 7 o'clock that night. So in the afternoon, we rehearsed the show with the director and everything else. Prior to that, we would go in and pre-record the songs, because in those days the sound wasn't good enough for them to do things live. Would have been better for me because I could never mime the same way twice. And then people would come in, they'd have their records and they'd mime their new records they were pushing. And then in the night time we'd tape the show. It was great. We had a live audience. They were lovely. And and the people on the Go Show, I mean, we've lost a lot of them now. Billy Adams is gone. Lynn Randell is gone. Yvonne Barrett is gone. Bobby and Laurie's gone. People out of bands have gone. It's And that's why I think with the Ghost Show that we've been doing, we haven't done it for the last 2 years because of COVID, but they're looking at doing maybe the last Ghost Show Gold next year. They're looking at doing that as soon as they can next year.
Oh, good.
Which I'm being booked for, which is really nice. I'll be 77. Normal will be 75. How unbelievable is that? Oh, in our 70s, for heaven's sake.
But still sounding great. That's the main thing.
But the thing is, it'll be lovely to do one last show if we can. And our director-producer is Dennis Smith, and he was one of our directors on The Ghost Show with Julian Jover. He was lovely, Julian Jover, the producer. And Julian Jover, he and his brothers belonged, I can't think of the name of it, I might have put it in my book, but they belonged to a very famous, trapeze act family.
Oh.
Yeah. But he was so lovely and such a gentleman. And Dennis is still with us. And so we were kind of all kids together, doing it together. So next year will be really, really something if this COVID thing, if we can get an audience, you know.
Yeah, I'll look forward to that.
Be nice to go out with a bang.
Yeah, that's right. Now, artists on the Go Show would often sing cover versions of the hits of the day. Did you have much of a say in what songs you would do?
We'd sort of all sit down and talk about it. They normally give me, I'd usually open the show or close the show because I was very bright singer and, you know, I didn't just sit on a stool and go blah, 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 you know. So it was, they always had a good opening or closer with me or with Norm or someone, Bobby and Laurie. So I sang a lot of the hits of the day, you know, that were on. And we just learn them and pre-record them and then hope you're going to sing it the same way that you recorded it. But that way they would get the same sound in the studio. But have you seen a lot of old Go shows?
Yeah, they're around.
Yeah. I've got quite a few on a disc that I got. A lot of them off Milton. Do you know Milton?
Rings a bell.
Yeah, Milton's pretty good with all that stuff. But, and I sort of kept a lot of things and had them all put together on a big disc. So I've got quite a lot of old film clip. I bought some things from old bandstands. I bought a couple of bandstands. But I did a lot of bandstands. But they charge you a fair bit of dough to get them.
They do, yeah.
Come.
Moving on to the Cookies, do you remember the first time you met the Cook sisters?
Sure. I went up to do a countdown in Brisbane Countdown, and the girls used to do things themselves, but also vocal packing for everybody on the show. And so they did it for me. I did Respect, and it was so funny. It was Sock It To Me, but they didn't know they were singing Suck It To Me, Suck It To Me, Suck It To Me, Suck It To Me. Instead of Suck It To Me, Suck It To Me. And so I met them there, and then I was working Cloudland Ballroom, which was an amazing place. Everybody did the ballroom. That's no longer there. They pulled it down. It was the biggest dance hall in the Southern Hemisphere. Sprung floor, big bandstand. It was, you know, it was like you used to see Tommy Dorsey playing on, you know, a big band and a big dance floor. And then they were doing that with the big band, and they worked with me on that. And then I had some shows down on the coast, and I just said to them, look, I've got a few gigs and I've got a few gigs in Sydney. Why don't we give it a go together? And so we quickly ran up a couple of dresses and learned the songs, and on we went. So everything everything kind of went as it was meant to be, sort of just zotted into place.
It sounded like a match made in heaven with your powerful vocals out front and the sibling behind you. It's always a wonderful sound, the sound of siblings singing together. Did it sound, that mix just sounded just right from the beginning?
Oh, it was great. Right from the very beginning, it was perfect. As we got on a bit later and we put new things in our show, I had the girls doing bits of lead vocal too. Like if we didn't put a medley together, a few medleys together, I'd have the girls singing bits and pieces too. It just made the show more, gave it a bit more scope.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to quite enjoy doing some harmonies and things as well. But mainly I was the lead singer. The girls sing great together. Yeah.
And female vocal groups were something of a rarity in Australia at that time, weren't they?
Oh, they were. They were the Cliffmores from Adelaide. They were all sisters. And they were pretty good. I don't know really much about their career. They were the only ones up against us, really. We just had so much... everybody remembers Marcie and the Cookies. And I think that's because I was very well known, you know, through all the television and the regular on the Go show. She's 60, 64, 65, and then we joined up in 67. So I'd had a lot of national television prior to that. So when it became Marcie Jones and the Cookies, you know, it was pretty, and we were great together, and we had fun together. We did, I did 5 tours with Gene Pitney and 3 national tours, and 3 of them were with the Cookies.
Wow.
So, you know, we worked a lot together. We worked all over. Then we went overseas in January of 1969.
So how conscious of image were you back in those days? Was that a big focus?
Well, I'm sorry, what was that again?
Image, creating an image. Was that a big focus at the time?
Creating an image?
Yeah.
We were sort of our own image, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We sang black funky music. We didn't sing your little sweet songs, or maybe we would have got more hits if we had them or something like that, but we were more of a really funky girl group. We wore very short dresses with matching knickers and stockings and shoes and all the rest of it, and I think we were pretty hip. And you know, you get 4 young girls together doing all the things and everything. The boys loved us. So they were all up the front of the stage, you know, and the girls loved us too because we were very friendly. We were like the girls next door, you know.
Mm. So
I guess our image was sort of just fell into as well because of what we are, what we were. We worked a lot. We worked in England for. I was over there 1969 till August of 1970, and for most of that time we toured all through Europe and places like that in England, and we toured through England with Cliff Richard, and so we would do our own show first, and then the girls would go on and do his vocal backing. So it was a really good family show, you know. It was great.
You released some wonderful singles with the Cookies back in the day, but never had the opportunity to release a full-length album. Is that something you regret now?
Oh, no, we did a full-length album.
Oh, did you?
But we did, yes, we did. But if you go into my website, you can see that album. It was actually a CD, which we did much later on.
Oh, right.
And so there's a whole lot of tracks. There was the singles that we did, and then we did another album. What did we call it? Can't remember. But that had a lot of really funky stuff. But you can probably even download a lot of that stuff from my website, the latest stuff.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned there was a bit of backlash from female fans, particularly during the time that you and Norm were an item. Were there any attempts by Norm's management to keep that relationship a bit quiet?
Yes. Yes. Ivan David did his best to keep us apart. He'd booked Norm in one end of Australia and me in the other end of Australia. And half the time it was only 500 miles. He'd finish a show and drive up to where I was. So it didn't work at all. But it was his idea for me to join up with the Cookies. He thought that would be a great thing for me, which it was. But, Ivan did his best. And when Norm went overseas, when he first went overseas. That's where he recorded It's Not Easy and a few others. Ivan Damon told management that was looking after Norm to take all my letters. So they took all my letters, and it wasn't until I hadn't heard from Norm and I rang him, and he was really shitty with me, but he knew I didn't tell lies, and I said, I've been writing to you every single week, sometimes twice a week. And so anyway, Trotter from the Playboys later on told me, and I told Norm, that David, who was looking after us, David Joseph, he's now gone to God too, who was looking after us, was taking all my mail.
Oh, God.
So Norm was writing to him, oh yeah, everybody tried to interfere. Everybody tried to interfere. And even when I came home from England and I was a bit late getting back, and Norm was pretty upset I wasn't there to meet him, and he'd met Sue in the long run. And anyway, that's another story. But even when I was coming home, Norm was coming out to meet me at the airport, and his mum rang Sue and said, you better get over here. So everybody interfered.
Mm.
Everybody. But you know what? Norm and I today are still great friends. We've grown up through all of our marriages and divorces and our children, and our friendship is still strong. And when we work together, which is every now and again we work together, it's funny. People laugh. They say we're like an old married couple because we know each other so well. And he always said to me, you know, you're the only woman I'll ever let tell me what to do. And I said, but that's because I'm right. So he and I are still, we're very dear friends.
Oh, that's a great story. Yeah.
And that's really, really, really good.
So looking back at your younger self, how do you think you coped with the fame and notoriety at such a young age? Was it hard to stay grounded?
Oh, no, not really. Not for me. I'm a very on-the-ground person. No, not for me at all. And I didn't have a big head. You know, I think my mum and dad were and all my family were very down to earth. And I didn't think I was ever any better than anybody else. Never. I still don't. It's just not part of my personality. So I didn't really have a problem with any of that stuff.
Oh, good.
And I didn't drink. I mean, I might have the occasional drink. I didn't smoke dope. I didn't take drugs. The only time I ever took any drugs was a few zippy-doos if I was driving a long way. You know, keep yourself awake like the truckies.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the way they made me feel. Horrible. So, you know, that never... I mean, you know, a couple of times and that was it. So I've never really burned the candle at both ends, neither did Norm. So I guess that's why we're still alive and kicking and able to work and stuff like that. And plus, I was around always good people. We spent, Norm and I spent, 3 years on the road every now and again with Frank Foster doing the tent shows. And sometimes, you know, at the big shows like Brisbane Necker or Melbourne show, Sydney show, we might start at 10 in the morning and finish at 10 at night doing sometimes 16 shows a day, half-hour shows, but they were repetitive and they just kept going. And Frank, he's gone to God too, God bless him. But he was wonderful and we were like his kids. You know, if any of the blokes on the grounds, on the showgrounds, had talked to me or anything, he'd say, don't talk to him, he's a mug. So we had these wonderful grounded people. And it wasn't until I started writing my memoirs and I was digging into family history, I found out that my great-great-grandfather, John was his father. Yeah, Charles George, I can't remember. He was a showman in America with P.T. Barnum for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So at the very beginning of Phineas Barnum, putting up the tent shows so it was an amazing feeling because when I found that out, I thought, wow, I've always felt so comfortable working on the showgrounds, and especially with Frank, and when he was married to Merle and then June, they were just wonderful to us, and they looked after us like their own. And we had such a wonderful time travelling up and down the coast in caravans, like gypsies.
Oh, wow.
Finding a place and setting up for the night, and the big tents would go up, and then we'd work. And if it was raining and muddy, we'd Marcie and the Cookies. We did a tour up there with Frank as well, and you'd wear your gumboots to the back of the tent and put on your little silver shoes to go on stage. It was. But probably the showgrounds, I would say, those 3 years that I toured with Frank and Merle and then with June, it would have been the best years of my life. Yeah. And Norm would probably say so too. I mean, he's had a lot more experience than me. He's gone to Canada and done a lot of the big festivals and things. But, I've worked with a lot of people too. It's just, we've been very lucky that we've had good people around us. And Norma would tell you that too, like, really good people. And I suppose because we didn't get into the darker side of stuff, we kept ourselves really clean. Mm-hmm. I think we always had the right people, and we watched people die of drugs around us. Don't think we didn't see it, because we did. And a lot of heartache for people. But, poor Frank, he lost both his daughters to drug overdoses.
Oh, no.
Both of them, they were young, 20 and 32 or something, God. Terrible. And a lot of that went on in the showgrounds, but we didn't have anything to do with any of that stuff. Normie and the Playboys or me, or, we didn't. Probably that's why we're still here. I don't know.
Now, you mentioned you're on that Monkees tour in 1968. Any standout memories of that?
I have one that we did the tour, and the guys were fantastic, and of course Davy Jones and Marcie Jones. It was like we thought that was a hoot. The boys were really nice, and we didn't have a problem with anything until we did Sydney. And do you remember in Sydney they had the big the stage, it was an oval stage, was for the wrestling and the boxing, and it used to move around.
Oh, the revolving stage, yeah.
It would revolve very, very slowly all the way around. I saw, now I'm going to go blank. I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, we worked on that stage with the Monkees. And I don't know who it was. I have a feeling I remember who it was, but I won't say. But he was comparing it at the time. And he goes out, and you know what people are like? As soon as they get play any kind of thing from the kids, like yes, or scream. They used to scream in those days. They continue with it. But, all of a sudden they're getting screamed at. Anyway, he was up there, the guy who was doing the emceeing, and out the back, I ran into him. He went through all the Monkees' names. So he had these girls hysterical. Then he said, but before the Monkees come on, we've got 4 girls from Melbourne. I could have killed him. Because we could have gone on then and just died the most terrible death. Luckily, I would, if I could, was doing really well for us across Australia and doing well for us in Sydney, and all the kids knew the song. And, of course, we go on stage, and Beverly was 15 and a half or something when we did that tour. And, of course, a lot of the kids in the audience were her age group.
Yeah.
So, of course, we were all waving to the girls and all very friendly, which we are, naturally. And so luckily they all loved us. And then we did I Would If I Could, and they all sang with us. But I came off stage afterwards and I grabbed him and I said, how dare you do that to anyone? I said, we could have died a terrible death and it would have been your fault.
Mm.
I went through him like a pack of salt. He didn't do it again.
Now you mentioned,
but apart from that, it was good.
You mentioned you had that time in England. Was there a defining moment where you knew it was time to come home?
Oh yes. I never had any was never a decision for me to stay. Norm was going to Vietnam. He had a year in the Army at Pucker, and he was going to Vietnam for 12 months. I thought it'd be great to go overseas and work, or in the Far East we did as well, and we worked in Germany and Spain. And I never wanted to stay to make it over there. I wanted to be home when he got back from Vietnam. But management and all the rest of it basically said, if I left, they wouldn't be able to work, blah, 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 blah. When we did Spain, I was really starting to have breakdown material. I lost my voice. I couldn't sing. I was crying all the time. I really was breakdown material. I wanted to come home. And he was home, and I wanted to come home. And finally, I lost my voice, and I was no good to anybody. So then management said, okay, you want to go home, you can go home.
Just
and
like
I
that.
did.
Mm.
But the girls then joined up with Pete Williams, who was with The Groove, because The Groove broke up, and they became the Spirit of Progress, and they worked together as a group. But I wanted to come home. I wanted to be home when he got home. And he's never quite forgiven me for it, but that's what happened. And so, the rest is no news. But anyway, that's what happened.
But after you came home, in terms of your career, was there a period of adjustment there for yourself to work out what you wanted to do with the next stage of your career?
Well, it was always about working for me. It was never about what could I do next to make my career better. I probably should have thought that way. I met a guy called Michael Barnett. He managed Russell Morris and a few other bands, and he worked at a big agency, which Gary Spry, who was our manager, and his father put that together. And I started going out with Michael, and he managed me, and then I started working the clubs, going up to Sydney and working other dancers, and I was still, we recorded EMI, with Marcie and the Cookies recorded 4. I think when I came home, I had a contract with WEA Records, and I recorded a few things for them as well. So there's been a few different, I've had a few different record companies sign me. But, I was never, I should have been smart like Alison Durbin, where she made album after album of all these songs, and they were put out by, that group that used to advertise on television?
Oh, it was Hamart, I think.
Yeah, they would all go out and buy her stuff. I needed something like that, where the distribution and the pushing of the person, which was in. So I ended up just working the clubs. I married Michael. I had Benjamin when I was 20. I was 27 when I got married, 29 when I had Ben, nearly 32 when I had Beau. And then my mother passed away at 59 on the day I brought my son home from hospital. Not meant to live. He was £1.9. And then on the day I brought him home, my mother dropped dead.
Goodness.
For 2 years, I just really didn't want to do anything but be with my children and look after my children, which is what I did. Then I went into and I did some stage work. I went into a musical and I did a few other things. But, my career wasn't the be-all and end-all to me. It wasn't, I could have said, well, I'm never going to get married, I'm never going to have children, and I just want to record and I want to do this and I want to do that. But it really wasn't for me. Family was always the most important thing.
There was there was a great album.
Writing.
A great album you put out around 1974, that Jones Girl album, which I was actually listening to it this morning. There's some terrific musicians on that and a great selection of songs. And it probably should have set you up for a great new period in your career. But did you have high hopes for that record?
No, I don't. It's terrible. John, I don't think I even thought about it. We didn't record it. No, I was never one of these people who thought, oh, maybe this time. No, it was, that was engineered by Roger Savage and produced by Tweed Harris. And I had wonderful, wonderful musicians on it. And I think it did all right. There was a few singles off that album. That I think was that WEA Records. That's when I came back from England. They did that album.
Yeah.
That Girl Jones. But it wasn't until, and then I think they put the John Farnham and myself and Colin Hewitt, and they had an EP out with some stuff on that. And over the years, they keep taking things and putting on. I think I had the best fun I ever had was from 1998 when I started writing my own material, and I started writing songs and entering into the Victorian Country Music Awards, which is pretty tough to get into. So I had like 16 or 17 nominations over the years. I always made the top two, which was pretty exciting, up against a lot of really good writers and singers. And in 2009, I won Best Female Vocal, and I got the Trailblazers Heritage Award. But you get that when you're old and you've been in the business a long time. But I won with a song called Daddy, and I wrote that with Denise Drysdale, and I went in, because we toured together for a few years too. She's funny. We have such a good time together, her and I, and she's been really unwell lately. But we went to the cenotaph in the city, and I think was it the 30th anniversary of the Battle of Long Tan? It was quite a while ago. 2009 I had the award for it, so it must have been prior to that. Anyway, on the way home, she said to me, why don't you write a song about the kids of the Vietnam veterans? And on the way home, I wrote Daddy. I had a real movement. I had a lot of songs. I was really loved writing, and there's still some new things. A couple of years ago, I put out a song called No Glory in War, which I wrote after the Manchester bombings, and that's me sticking my fingers up at the baddies. And then prior to that, at 70, I recorded Blackbird Bye Bye, which is a lovely version of Bye Bye Blackbird, just with piano. And I do it the way it was originally written in 1926. So I do the verses, and then it builds up to that lovely chorus. But it's totally different to what people thought. It's a bit of a bang on the piano and a beer and round, sing-along. But it was actually a story about a young girl who was actually about a young black girl who was a prostitute back then, and she was leaving the business. They were the Blackbirds. She was leaving them behind, and she was going home to her mother, who was the Bluebird. And that's what the song's about.
And country music is not something we would have associated with you way back in the early days there. Is that a style of music you've always had a love for?
Well, I've always loved Celtic music. And if my grandparents, they played Celtic music. And then I grew up with Mark Allen. He played swing. So, for about 3 years I sang, 5 years. I sang with the swing band down at Alexander's. We had Alexander's for 5 years, my ex-husband and I sang with fabulous, the second Channel 9 orchestra, and we worked down there. I worked with them for a long time down there, which was amazing. So, I trained as a lyric soprano, as a classical singer, but I sang pop music and ballads. I sang swing with the big band. And later on in life, I wrote and recorded a lot of Celtic-type country music songs. If you listen to my songs, you'll hear a lot of the Celtish feel in the fiddles and banjos and stuff, or just plain the country style stuff. But so I guess it's over the years that I've had different loves of all different kinds of music through my family and, you know, all the rest of it. When I started singing pop, I had to learn to drop my G's, you know, singing instead of singing. So you had to change style a little bit. But so I guess I've sung a lot of different kinds of music, and I like singing all different kinds of music.
Yeah.
I don't like just being put into one box. So have you heard any of my country stuff?
I have heard a little of it, yeah.
Yeah, go and have everything's on my website. But, I mean, if you ever want anything, albums or the latest sort of things, I've got one out called Anthology, and I think that's got about 20 tracks. You've probably got most of them anyway.
Yeah.
But you have a look in there. So as long as I've been working, I've been still recording and doing, putting out my work and some other things, you know, other pop songs as well. Because people want something from you when you're working. So I've had my books. The second book I wrote was called the George and Charlie, and it's a story about two little dogs called George and Charlie. One's a little black toy poodle, the other one's a little Maltese Shih Tzu, and they have adventures. But what they do is they teach young children different things like parents teach. So the first one's about responsibility. The second one is consequences. That's written, but I haven't got that out yet, and I've partly written the other two, but lovely characters, and they all end up happily back at home on the veranda. It doesn't matter what's happened. So there's always a happy ending. The children have to have happy endings. But I think it's a lovely book. I had a dear, darling friend of mine, like my son, called Shannon Trotman. His father is still the drummer with Normie Rowe and the Playboys.
Oh, wow.
He's still Normie's drummer. And his son Shannon worked with me. He did the illustrations. So it's beautiful. So you can go into George and Charlie World and see that book. And you can still download my memoir on, I think it's iBooks.
iBooks, right. Okay, I'll check that.
That's called Runs in the Blood. And that's where I talk about, I only spill the dirt on me. I don't spill the dirt on anybody else and get anybody else into trouble. Norm gets a whole chapter.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of interesting chapters. Love and sex. I thought, how I didn't know anything. And that's pretty warts and all. But I just figured if you're going to spend all this time writing something, you can put in a whole lot of calculations and dates, and I did this and I did that, and I toured with this and I toured with that. But people out there want to know about you. They want to know about how you coped with things. So I wrote it, warts and all, because I thought one day when I'm not here, my grandchildren, when they grow up, will have children, and I certainly won't be here then. So they can pull out the book and say, this is Grandy's book. You know, and the kids' book too. So for me, it's like leaving. It's not about making money, which it would be really nice to make lots of money through my writing. Of course it would. Because the last few years, they have been a bit of a battle. When I divorced my husband, we'd bought out Koala Blue, and he had nightclubs, and then the recession hit, and we had, you know, a beautiful home in Mont Albert, and it all went to the bank. So the marriage went, the house went, everything went, and I had to start all over again, which I did.
Mm.
Pick up the pieces and claw yourself to the top of the ridge and start again. So I've done that a couple of times in my life. Had another house that burnt down.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, dear. Yeah, but anyway, I wasn't insured. So what can you do? You've got to start again. Anyway, through all of that, I had a heart attack, but, you know, we got through it. Here I am. I'm now 76 years old and ready for whatever pops up again.
Yeah, well, hopefully this COVID situation's starting to work its way behind us, and we'll see you back on stage in 2022 with a bit of luck.
Well, with a bit of luck, we'll get that Go show up and running next year. Which would be lovely, and I think it'll sell out pretty quick once it goes on sale. We've got a couple. I think they've booked the Saturday and the Sunday. I can't give you the dates. But it'll be lovely to see everybody. And, we've had a sad time. We've lost a lot of people. And Daryl Cotton, I was touring with him when he found out he was so sick. We lost the wonderful Peter Doyle. He's been gone now 20 years. Doug Parkinson, that was a shock.
Yeah.
And Jim Keys. And, it's just awful. And I know as we get older, 70 plus, what they say, 70 years and 10. So anything now over, you wake up in the morning and think, oh, well, I made that one through the night. But look what happened to Michael Kadinsky.
Yeah.
So all we can do is live each day. And my partner and I, I've been with for just over 30 years. He was the keyboard player with the Thunderbirds. And they were a very famous group, late 50s, early 60s. So, Murray's nearly 81, and he's doing fantastic. We're waiting to get into our new house, which has been 12 months being built. Buy off the plan and wait, everybody. Don't let them tell you it'll be finished in 3 months, because that's a BS.
Yep.
So we've been down here since just before Christmas, thinking we'd only be a few months and we'd be into our new lovely new little townhouse. And we're still waiting for occupancy. So staying with my stepson at the moment, and we haven't heard anything yet. So I'm hoping he'll be all right.
Oh, absolutely. I certainly hope so too, yeah. Hey, Marcie, thanks so much for your time. I know you got a bit on at the moment, so I won't keep you any longer. But
okay. Thank you. How's your wife?
All good. Yeah, all good. Yep, just resting on the couch and, like I said to you the other day, giving Netflix a good workout.
Tell her to make you wait on her hand and foot.
Oh, I'm doing that.
Good for you. All right, well, thank you so much.
Bless you, Marcie.
I hope this is good for your show.
I will. I'll let you know when it's all happening.
And thanks to everybody who's going to listen. That's lovely.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
All the best. Bye.
Bye.